Let me ask you something, and don't lie to me. Why don't you see it? Why don't you see what's happening right in front of you? You think he doesn't notice how much you care, how much you give, how much you bend over backward just to keep him around. Oh, he notices. He's always noticed. And you know what? He counts on it. You think you're showing him love, loyalty, patience, but in his mind, all he sees is power, his power over you. Every time you chase, every time you wait by the phone, every time you cry over him, he feels bigger, stronger. And you feel smaller, don't you? And don't you dare tell me it doesn't hurt. Don't you dare tell me you don't lay awake at night, wondering what more you could possibly do to make him care the way you do. Let me tell you something. It's not about what you do. It's about what you allow. People treat you the way you let them treat you. And right now, you're showing him that he can take you for granted, that you'll always be there no matter what he does or doesn't do. Here's the kicker. You think he's not paying attention, but oh, he's paying attention. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's comfortable because he knows you'll never stop trying. But let me tell you something that's going to hurt a little. The more you give, the less he values it. The more you chase, the further he runs. And you know why? Because he's never had to face the idea of losing you. He's never had to deal with a version of you who isn't begging for his time, his attention, his love. But the second you stop caring, the second you stop running after someone who doesn't see your worth, that's when everything changes. Imagine this. You're holding a glass of water for so long that your arm starts shaking, but you refuse to let it go because you think you need it to survive. Guess what? The second you let go, the pain stops. That's exactly what happens when you stop caring. You free yourself. And him? Oh, his ego. It shatters. Because suddenly, he's not in control anymore. You are. So let me be clear. This isn't about playing games. It's not about revenge or making him suffer. It's about waking up to the reality that you've been pouring all your love into someone who doesn't deserve it. It's about realizing that you deserve that love more than he ever did. Are you ready to stop? Are you ready to stop wasting your time and energy on someone who doesn't even see what he has? Because the second you do, the second you take your power back, trust me, it'll hit him like a freight train. And by then, you won't even care. So here is your affirmation, and I need you to take this seriously. Say it with me right now. I will drive him mad. Go ahead and write it boldly in the comments. Show him. Show yourself. Show the world that you've finally woken up to your worth. Let this be your declaration. The moment you take back your power and remind everyone, especially yourself, that you are not to be underestimated. So, my queens, this is the time to step into your power. No more waiting, no more wishing, no more doubting your value. This is your moment. The moment where you stop caring what he thinks and start living for you. Because when you make that shift, you don't just change the game, you become the game. Now, let me ask you something, and don't shy away from the truth. Have you ever felt like no matter how much you gave, it was never enough? Like you were pouring all your love, all your energy, and all your time into someone who met it with nothing but indifference? Be honest. Have you stayed up late, replaying every word, every glance, every moment, wondering, what did I do wrong? Well, let me tell you something, Queason. It's not about you. Stop blaming yourself. Stop carrying the weight of their indifference like it's your burden to bear. The problem isn't you, it's the mask they wear. Think about it. They act aloof, distant and unbothered, don't they? Like nothing phases them, like your efforts don't matter. But that's not strength, that's weakness in disguise. That's their fragile ego hiding behind a mask they use to protect themselves, to keep control, to avoid vulnerability. But here's the secret. That mask, it cracks the moment you stop playing their game. Picture this. You're at a party. Everyone's laughing, talking, enjoying themselves. And there they are, off in the corner, scrolling through their phone like they're too cool to care. But you know what that is? That's a desperate attempt to maintain control. It's a performance, a facade. And the second you stop caring, the moment you stop giving them the satisfaction of your attention, their whole act crumbles. Their carefully crafted world starts to falter. And you're finally free. But here's where it gets really interesting. When you stop caring, their mind goes into overdrive. Suddenly, they're questioning everything. Why isn't she chasing me anymore? What's changed? Has she moved on? Was I ever really that important to her? You see, when you detach, you force them to confront their own insecurities, their own fears, their own emptiness. And trust me, that's a storm they aren't ready for. Now, let's not sugarcoat this. It's not easy. I know you're afraid. Afraid to let go. Afraid of losing them. Afraid of not being enough. Of never being loved the way you deserve. But let me be clear. That fear, it's a lie. And inside that lie is your greatest opportunity. It's your chance to reclaim your worth. To remind yourself that you are not defined by their attention, their approval, or their love. You are defined by you. And don't get it twisted. This isn't about being cold or cruel. It's about boundaries. It's about finally choosing yourself over someone who has never chosen you. Because here's the truth. You were never chasing him. You were chasing the version of yourself you thought you needed to be to make him stay. But that version, she doesn't need to exist anymore. The real you, she's enough. She's always been enough. And before we dive deep, I want you to do something powerful right now. Press that like button under this video. Help spread this message far and wide to reach more queens out there who need to hear this. Because together, we're not just reclaiming our worth, we're building a movement of unstoppable women. And now, let's dive even deeper. Number 1, the inflation of ego. Why caring too much gives him wings. Let me ask you something, and be brutally honest with yourself. Have you ever felt like no matter how much you gave, your love, your time, your energy, it was never enough? Like you were screaming your worth in silence while he barely noticed. And the more you gave, the less he seemed to care. Here's the hard truth you need to hear. Caring too much is exactly what gave his ego wings. Yes, you heard me right. Every time you poured your energy into someone who didn't reciprocate, you weren't just showing love. You were feeding his sense of superiority. You were teaching him that he's the center of your world, and the higher he soared on that self-made pedestal, the less he felt the need to care. And guess what? It's not a coincidence. It's a pattern. The more you gave, the more he expected, the more he took. Until one day you woke up, looked in the mirror, and asked yourself, how did I end up here? Why does my happiness depend on someone who barely notices my effort? The more you give without limits, the less they value it. It's not easy to hear, but the truth rarely is. Let's get real. His ego thrives on your attention, your validation, and your effort. The more you care, the more he believes he deserves it. And you're left drained, running in circles, wondering why nothing ever changes. Think about it like this. You're trying to fill a cup that has a hole at the bottom. No matter how much water you pour, it's never enough. And the worst part? While you're exhausting yourself trying to fill that cup, he's just standing there, taking it for granted. You can't teach someone to respect you by showing them you'll sacrifice yourself to please them. The problem isn't just him, it's the dynamic you helped create. You see, the moment you started overgiving, overcaring, overtrying, you taught him to expect it. You unknowingly told him, "I'll keep giving, no matter what you do." And that's exactly what he's relied on. But let me be clear, this isn't about blaming yourself. It's about waking up. It's about breaking free from the lie you've been living, the lie that says your worth is tied to how much you give. Caring too much is like watering a plant with no roots. It doesn't matter how much water you pour, it's never going to grow because it can't. And all the while, you're draining yourself, emptying your soul for someone who doesn't even realize the value of what you're giving. So why is it so hard to stop? Why does it feel impossible to pull back, to let go, to stop caring so much? Because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid that if you stop, he'll leave. That if you don't keep proving yourself, he won't care at all. But let me shatter that lie right here, right now. Your worth has never been tied to someone else's approval. If he only stays because of what you give, because of what you sacrifice, then he was never truly yours to begin with. True love isn't about how much you give. It's about who you are. I know what you're thinking. But if I stop caring so much, won't he think I don't love him? Won't he feel abandoned? Let me tell you this. When you pull back, when you stop overgiving, you're not abandoning him. You're choosing yourself. You're setting boundaries. You're showing him that your love is a gift, not a guarantee. And yes, it's going to be hard. His ego won't like it when you stop feeding it. He might act distant, confused, or even try to manipulate you into going back to the old dynamic. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, to reclaim your energy, to remember that you're not defined by how much you care about someone who can't even appreciate it. So what happens when you stop? When you stop overgiving, overtrying, overcaring, his ego falters. The wings you gave him start to feel heavy. And suddenly, he's not so sure of his place in your life. And you rise. You feel lighter, freer, more in control of your own happiness. The moment you stop watering the weeds, the flowers in your life have room to bloom. So let's make this moment count. Let's draw the line, not for him, but for you. Stop inflating egos that don't deserve it. Stop chasing, proving, and overcaring. Start investing that energy where it truly belongs, in yourself. Write this in the comments right now. I choose me. Say it, believe it, declare it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you're done pouring into a cup with no bottom. And stick around, because next, we're diving into the illusion of control and why it was never really his to begin with. This is just the beginning of your transformation. Stay with me, Queens. This is your time. Number 2. The illusion of control. The strings he thought he pulled. Let's get one thing straight. He thought he had you. Wrapped around his finger, didn't he? He pulled the strings, expecting you to move when he moved, to follow his lead, to stay exactly where he wanted you. Silent, waiting, predictable. And for a while maybe you did. Maybe you believed that his attention, his approval, his presence was what made you whole. But here's the truth. He was never in control. Not really. It was all an illusion, a trick of the ego, a house of cards built on sand. The real power? It was always with you. You just forgot that for a little while. Let's break this down. Why does he act like he's in control? Because his ego needs it. His confidence isn't built on strength, it's built on the belief that he can dictate your emotions, that every time he snaps his fingers, you'll come running. And for a while you did, didn't you? Every text he delayed, every cryptic word he dropped, every breadcrumb he left behind, you picked them up, desperate for meaning, for validation. But let's get one thing clear. His control was never real. It was a mirror reflecting your own doubts, your own fears. Control is an illusion, a story we tell ourselves to feel safe. Think about it. Why does he act distant, aloof, unbothered? It's a game, a performance designed to keep you guessing. He wants you to feel like you need his validation to be whole, like his attention is a prize you have to earn. But here's the thing. A puppet only dances if it doesn't cut its strings. The only person who can truly control you is the one you let inside your mind. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you did something just to keep him happy? Sent an extra text because he was pulling away? Rearranged your schedule to fit into his? Spent sleepless nights wondering, what did I do wrong? That wasn't him pulling strings. That was your fear. The fear of being alone, the fear of losing him, the fear that you aren't enough without him. But let me tell you something powerful. The strings he thought he pulled were your insecurities, not his control. Picture this. You're standing on a stage and he's in the audience, holding strings he believes are attached to you. He moves his hand, expecting you to dance, but this time you don't. You stand still, unbothered, detached, and suddenly he's confused, panicked even, because the illusion is broken. He's not the puppeteer anymore. You've reclaimed your autonomy. I'm not going to lie to you. Cutting those strings is scary. It feels unnatural to stop reacting, to stop chasing, to stop playing along. And yes, the fear creeps in. What if he loses interest? What if he walks away? But ask yourself this. Is it really worth holding on to someone who only stays because they think they're in control? Control isn't power. True power lies in your ability to walk away from what no longer serves you. And here's the irony. The moment you stop playing along, the moment you let those strings fall away, he doesn't just lose his grip on you, he loses his grip on himself. His confidence, his ego, his sense of superiority, it all starts to crumble, because it was never real. It was a mask he wore to hide his own insecurities. And now he's forced to confront the truth. The control he thought he had was nothing but a reflection of your fears, not his strength. Now, don't expect him to admit it. He won't suddenly thank you for showing him the error of his ways. More likely, he'll try to regain that illusion of control. He might send a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" or throw guilt your way with, "You've changed." But let me tell you, his reaction is not your responsibility. His ego is not your burden to carry. This is your moment, your chance to cut the strings, to stand tall, to remind yourself that his control was never real. It was always your fear masquerading as his power. And when you take back your autonomy, something incredible happens. You stop being the puppet and start becoming the master of your own life. The freedom you've been craving was within you all along. So, what's next? It's time to let his illusion shatter. Watch as the power dynamic shifts, not through arguments or games, but through your quiet, unshakable confidence. And as you take that step forward, away from the strings he thought he held, you'll find something extraordinary. You were never bound to him in the first place. Write this in the comments. I am in control. Say it, own it, declare it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you've broken free from the illusion. And stick around, because next we're diving into why your independence shakes him to his core. This is just the beginning of your journey to reclaim your power. Stay with me, Queens. Let's keep going. Number 3. Breaking chains. Why your independence make you irresistible. Listen up, Queens, because I need you to hear this loud and clear. Your independence is not just your strength, it's your weapon. It's the very thing that makes you powerful, radiant, and completely unforgettable. But let me guess, you've been told to tone it down, to shrink, to soften yourself just to make someone else comfortable, haven't you? You've been told that being independent will scare him away. But let me ask you this. Why are you so afraid of losing someone who can't handle your strength? Let's cut through the lies you've been fed. Independence doesn't push the right ones away. It draws them closer. And the ones it does scare off. They were never worthy of you to begin with. The second you stop being dependent, the moment you stop chasing someone's validation, something incredible happens. You become irresistible. You see, independence isn't just about being strong, it's about being whole. It's about saying, I am enough as I am. I don't need anyone to complete me. And when you reach that level of self-assurance, let me tell you, it shakes him to his core. Here's the truth that no one tells you. Independence exposes weakness. It's like holding up a mirror to his insecurities. When you're dependent, when you're constantly seeking his attention, his approval, his love, he feels powerful. He feels in control. But the moment you stop, the moment you detach, set boundaries, and choose yourself, his ego falters. Picture this. You've been the sun in his universe, pouring your energy into keeping his world warm and bright. And he took it for granted, didn't he? But now, you're pulling back that light, and without it, his world starts feeling a little colder, a little darker, a little emptier. Because here's the secret he doesn't want to admit. He needed your attention to feel important. When you stop chasing, you create space for him to chase you. And if he doesn't, you've already won, because you're chasing your own dreams instead. Independence forces him to see you differently. You're no longer the woman waiting for his call, bending over backward, or putting your needs last. You're the one walking away from the table when respect isn't served. And trust me, that is magnetic. Imagine this. You're at a party. You're not scanning the room for his attention. You're not following him around. You're just there, confident, radiant, unbothered. You're laughing, enjoying yourself, glowing from within. And suddenly, he notices. He sees you, really sees you, not as someone waiting for his crumbs, but as someone who knows her worth. The moment you stop being an option, you become a priority. Let me be clear. Independence doesn't just attract, it intimidates. It forces him to ask hard questions. What if I'm not enough for her? What if she's happier without me? What if I've been taking her for granted? And that fear, that's where your power lies. Because independence isn't just a shield, it's a mirror. It forces him to confront the uncomfortable truth. You don't need him. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Choosing independence is scary. It means facing the fear of being alone, the fear of losing him, the fear that maybe, just maybe, you'll be too much for someone. But let me tell you this, you are not too much. You're only too much for someone who is too small to handle your greatness. So let me ask you, are you going to keep playing small to make him feel big? Are you going to keep dimming your light so he can shine? Or are you going to step into your power and let the chips fall where they may? Independence isn't about walking away from love. It's about walking toward yourself. You break the chains by setting boundaries, by saying no, by refusing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. You break the chains by reminding yourself that love isn't about losing yourself in someone else. It's about finding someone who complements the incredible person you already are. And yes, when you stop overgiving, when you stop making him the center of your universe, he might react. He might act distant, confused, or even angry. But let me tell you this: his reaction is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, to nurture your growth, to live a life so full and vibrant that you don't have time to care about whether he notices or not. Because here's the beautiful irony: the moment you stop needing him, the moment you start thriving on your own, that's when he'll start craving your attention. Why? Because independence is rare, it's powerful, it's irresistible. Picture this: you're no longer waiting for his approval. You're not rearranging your life to fit into his. You're building your own empire, working on your goals, pursuing your passions, living for you. And in the process, you're showing him and the world that your life doesn't revolve around anyone but yourself. The freedom you've been craving was within you all along. Write this in the comments. I am unstoppable. Say it, own it, declare it. Show them, show yourself, and show the world that you're done playing small. Stick around, because next, we're diving into how setting boundaries doesn't push people away, but actually brings the right ones closer. This is just the beginning of your transformation. Let's keep going. Number 4. Your kindness isn't weakness. Let me tell you something you need to hear right now. Your kindness is not a weakness. Stop letting him make you believe it is. Stop letting him walk all over you just because you have a good heart. And stop confusing kindness with letting him treat you like an option. You've been told that being kind means being agreeable, being soft, being accommodating no matter what. But let me set the record straight. True kindness is strength. It takes courage to be kind in a world that often rewards cruelty. It takes resilience to show compassion when someone has hurt you. But somewhere along the line, he convinced you that your kindness made you easy to manipulate, easy to control, easy to take for granted. Let me ask you, how many times have you given him chance after chance because you wanted to believe in his potential? How many times have you excused his bad behavior thinking, maybe he's just going through something? And how many times has your kindness been met with nothing but his disrespect, indifference, or even worse, manipulation? Here's the truth you need to face. The problem isn't your kindness. The problem is who you're giving it to. Kindness doesn't mean bending over backward for someone who doesn't deserve it. Kindness doesn't mean tolerating his disrespect. And kindness doesn't mean sacrificing yourself to make him happy. What's kind about pouring all your love, energy, and time into someone who doesn't even appreciate it? That's not kindness, it's self-abandonment. You've got to stop confusing kindness with letting him take advantage of you. Because the moment he realizes you won't stand up for yourself, that you'll always put his needs above your own, he'll use it. He'll use your kindness like a weapon against you, a leash to keep you running in circles. Here's the hard truth. He doesn't see your kindness for what it is, a gift. He sees it as a weakness, an opening, a way to keep control. And let me tell you, the more you give, the less he values it. The more you excuse, the more he takes. Kindness doesn't mean you let him treat you like a doormat. It doesn't mean you ignore the red flags. It doesn't mean you let him walk away with your peace of mind just because you're afraid of being labeled too harsh or too much. Kindness without boundaries is a free pass to be used. And if you keep giving without limits, you're not being kind. You're betraying yourself. Picture this. You're watering a plant every single day, giving it everything it needs to thrive, but instead of growing, it just keeps withering. You'd ask yourself, what's the point? That's exactly what's happening when you keep giving your kindness to someone who doesn't deserve it. Kindness with boundaries, though, that's a whole different game. That's where your power lies. Because when you set boundaries, you're not being mean, you're being smart. You're protecting your peace. You're reminding him that your kindness is a gift, not a guarantee. And here's the irony. The moment you set those boundaries, the moment you make it clear that your kindness is reserved for those who earn it, that's when he'll realize what he's losing. That's when he'll see that the version of you he took for granted doesn't exist anymore. You've got to understand this. Kindness is not weakness. It's the strongest thing about you. But strength without control is chaos. Stop giving your kindness away freely to someone who doesn't respect it, and start using it wisely. Kindness with boundaries is the most irresistible thing in the world because it shows you're compassionate but not naive. When you stand firm in your boundaries, you teach him a lesson he'll never forget, that you're not the kind of woman who can be played with, taken for granted, or used. You're the kind of woman who chooses herself. So let me ask you, are you ready to take your kindness back? Are you ready to stop letting him mistake your softness for weakness? Because this is your moment, Queen. It's time to draw the line. To stop giving to someone who doesn't deserve it and start pouring into yourself. Write this in the comments. My kindness is my power. Say it, believe it, declare it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you've woken up to your worth. Stick around, because next we're diving into why reclaiming your kindness is the ultimate act of self-love. You've taken the first step. Let's keep going. Number 5. When you stopped playing his game. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. You've been playing his game for far too long. You know it, don't you? The chasing, the overthinking, the constant need to prove your worth. It's all part of his rules. A game he designed to keep you hooked, confused, and always running in circles. But here's the truth you've been avoiding. The only way to win is to stop playing altogether. Think about it. How many times have you tried to fix things? Sent that extra text, bent over backward to accommodate him, stayed up late wondering what you did wrong. And every time, what did he do? Pulled back just enough to keep you guessing, kept the game going so you'd keep chasing. Let me ask you, when's the last time he put in the effort? When's the last time he stayed up worrying about how to keep you happy? You know the answer. It's never. Here's the thing. His game only works because you let it. He's not some mastermind. He's just a guy who figured out that if he gives you crumbs, you'll stick around hoping for a meal. And you've been playing along, thinking if you just give a little more, try a little harder, he'll finally see your worth. But let me hit you with some hard truth. He already knows your worth. That's why he keeps you around. He just doesn't think he has to work for it. Why? Because you've been making it easy for him. By sticking to his rules, you've taught him that he doesn't need to respect you, prioritize you, or give you what you deserve. You've shown him that as long as he throws you the bare minimum, you'll stay. But what happens when you stop? When you stop texting first, stop rearranging your life for him, stop letting him dictate your emotions. Suddenly, the game changes. He feels it, whether he admits it or not. The power shifts, and he's left wondering, why isn't she reacting? Why isn't she chasing? Here's the thing about men like him. They thrive on control. And the second you take that away, the illusion shatters. The rules he created don't apply anymore, and he doesn't know what to do. Let me ask you something. Are you tired yet? Tired of waiting for someone who doesn't see your value? Tired of bending to his rules? Tired of sacrificing your peace for a game you never wanted to play in the first place? Because the moment you decide to stop playing, you win. When you walk away, you're not just quitting his game. You're rewriting the rules. You're saying, I'm done chasing. I'm done proving. I'm done playing small. And trust me, Queens, he will feel it. Write this in the comments. I'm done with the game. Say it. Own it. Declare it. Show him. Show yourself. And show the world that you've stopped playing by his rules. This is your power. Use it. Number 6. Silent observer. Why he's still watching. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how, even after you've stopped caring, after you've taken back your power, he's still watching? You'd think he'd move on, wouldn't you? But he doesn't. He's still lurking, still checking, still trying to stay connected to your energy, even if it's from the shadows. Why? Because even in silence, you've left an impression he can't ignore. When you stopped chasing, stopped reacting, stopped playing by his rules, it didn't just throw him off, it shook him to his core. The power dynamic shifted, and now he's the one trying to figure out what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and why he no longer has the hold on you that he once did. Here's the truth. People watch what they can no longer control. He's watching because your silence says more than any words ever could. It tells him, you're not the center of my world anymore. And that realization, it eats at him. Let's be real. He's not watching because he's suddenly changed, because he's had an epiphany about your worth. No, he's watching because your silence is making him question his own. Your detachment is a mirror, reflecting all the insecurities he tried to cover up by keeping you hooked. Think about it. When you were chasing him, he didn't have to question himself. Your effort validated his ego. Your attention made him feel important. But now he's sitting there wondering, why isn't she chasing me anymore? What's changed? Who is she giving her attention to now? And here's the irony. He might never admit it, but your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. When you were there, always available, always giving, he didn't have to work for your attention. But now that you're gone, your silence feels like a void he can't fill. But let me be clear. His watching doesn't mean you owe him anything. Just because he's lurking, checking your posts, or asking mutual friends about you, doesn't mean you should break your silence. That's the trap. The moment you react, the moment you acknowledge him, you give him back the power you worked so hard to reclaim. So, what do? You stay quiet. You stay unbothered. You stay focused on you. Let him watch. Let him wonder. Let him sit with the reality that you're no longer in his orbit. Because the longer you stay silent, the louder your worth becomes. Write this in the comments. My silence is my power. Say it, own it, declare it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you don't need words to make an impact. Your silence says it all. Stick around, Queens, because next we're diving into why their guilt doesn't mean they've changed, and why your focus should remain exactly where it belongs, on you. Number 7. Cracks in the mask, his ego in the mirror. Let me tell you something you need to understand right now. His ego isn't as unshakable as he pretends it is. That cool, detached, unbothered mask he wears. It's just that, a mask. A facade he uses to hide the cracks underneath. And here's the part no one tells you. Your detachment, your independence, your refusal to play by his rules. It forces those cracks to show. You see, his ego thrives on control. It feeds on attention, on validation, on the belief that he can dictate how you feel. When you were chasing him, overgiving and bending over backward to win his approval, it strengthened that mask. It let him feel untouchable, confident that he was the center of your universe. But the moment you stopped, the moment you chose yourself over his games, that's when the cracks started to form. Here's the truth. His mask isn't strength, it's a shield. A fragile cover he hides behind to avoid confronting the parts of himself he doesn't want to face. And when you walk away, when you detach with grace, it holds up a mirror to him. Suddenly, he's forced to look at himself, and it's not a pretty picture. Without your constant attention, without your energy fueling his ego, he's left with the one thing he's been running from all along, his own reflection. Let me ask you this. Have you ever seen how he reacts when he feels ignored? When you don't text back? When you don't react? When you don't give him the energy he's used to taking for granted? He acts unbothered, doesn't he? Pretends like it doesn't affect him. But don't be fooled by his act, because inside, the cracks in his ego are spreading. He's questioning himself, wondering, why doesn't she care anymore? Am I losing her? Am I not enough? That's the thing about a mask. It can only hold up for so long. Your silence, your independence, your detachment, it doesn't just threaten his ego, it exposes it. It forces him to confront the fact that he isn't as in control as he thought. But let me be clear, his reaction isn't your responsibility. The cracks in his mask, the insecurities he's been hiding, the chaos that comes from losing control over you, that's his problem, not yours. Your only responsibility is to keep moving forward, to keep choosing yourself, to keep building a life so full and vibrant that his games become irrelevant. Because here's the truth. When his mask finally breaks, it's not your job to put it back together. He created it, and he'll have to deal with what lies beneath it. You're too busy thriving to look back. Write this in the comments. I don't fix masks. Say it. Own it. Declare it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you're done being a crutch for someone else's ego. Stick around, because next, we're diving into why his regret doesn't mean reconciliation, and how you can use his cracks as a stepping stone for your own growth. This is your power. Keep it. Number 8. Light without shadows, from rejection to redirection. Let me tell you something, and you'd better listen carefully. You think he rejected you? Oh, queens, no. He didn't reject you, he redirected you, and you don't even see it yet. You're sitting there crying, questioning your worth, replaying every moment in your head, asking yourself, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Stop it. Stop it right now. Because this isn't about rejection. It's about the universe clearing your path. You think his walking away means you weren't worthy of his love. But let me tell you something that's going to hit hard. He wasn't capable of holding your light. He wasn't built for it. Your glow, your power, your potential, it scared him. It overwhelmed him. It reminded him of everything he wasn't. So instead of rising to meet you, he chose the easy way out. He chose to let you go. And here's the truth you've been avoiding. His rejection wasn't a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of his limitations. You're out here blaming yourself for someone else's inability to match your energy. You're carrying the weight of his inadequacies like they're yours to bear. Why? Why are you giving him that power? Let me ask you something. Do you know what happens when you try to shine your light on someone who's only comfortable in shadows? They run. Not because your light isn't beautiful, not because your light's enough, but because they can't handle it. They can't stand being exposed. And here's where you need to wake up. His rejection wasn't the end of the road. It was a redirection to something greater. You think you lost him, but really, you've been set free. Free to find someone who won't just tolerate your light, but will bask in it. Someone who will celebrate it, protect it, and help it grow. You're sitting here mourning someone who didn't even recognize the gift you are, and for what? For his inability to see what he had? No, queens. His rejection is your liberation. It's the universe stepping in and saying, "This isn't your path. You deserve better." And let me tell you something, rejection is never the end. It's the push you need to step into your power. It's the universe saying, "Not here, not him, not like this." Every time you feel like you've been left behind, remember this: you haven't been left. You've been redirected. So, let's stop calling it rejection and start calling it what it really is. Redirection to something better, something bigger, something that aligns with your worth. Write this in the comments: I am not rejected, I am redirected. Say it, own it, believe it. Show him, show yourself, and show the world that you've finally woken up to the truth. You were never rejected. You were realigned with your destiny. Stick around, because next we're diving into why your worth was never tied to his acceptance and how to find strength in every step forward. This is your time. Shine on. Number 9. Growth is loud. Your progress, his realization. Here's the thing. Growth is loud. Your progress, your strength, your evolution, it's deafening. And trust me, he hears it. Every step you take, every boundary you set, every moment you choose yourself over the past shakes the ground beneath him. He's realizing now what you've known all along. You didn't need him, you needed you. So my queens, keep going, keep growing. Let your success speak for itself. Write this in the comments: I am unstoppable. And don't forget, subscribe, like, and share this message with another queen who needs to hear it. Let's rise together.